Whew. First, let me just. Oh, I apologize for taking a week for this review, but I needed all the time I needed to just relax, calm myself down from what has been an insane season. And how does this crazy season end? With a spectacular back and forth 7 game final. And last Wednesday saw the dream of dreams come true for one franchise as the St. Louis Blues, after years of heartbreak, after years of watching other teams get past them and win, after years of seeing their ex-players win somewhere else, as recently as last year with T.J. Oshie winning with, of all teams, the Capitals, after 52 years, the St. Louis Blues finally won the Stanley Cup. Last Wednesday, St. Louis took Game 7 in Boston by a commanding score of 4-1. Oh my goodness. It was a crazy game. I think St. Louis is kind of getting outshot again, but they would just get they would just, whatever few shots they had, they would just go in. They would just go in. And Bennington was a brick wall. He was the brick wall he was when he was put in net in place of Jake Allen in January. And he continued that, but he continued that throughout January, February, March, April, May, and June as the St. Louis Blues did, like that other St. Louis team did 8 years ago. They came back from the dead and won the whole thing. Remember now, remember now, this team entered the new year with the worst record in the league. They were in the bottom of the entire National Hockey League. Even Ottawa was better than them, the train wreck that the Senators are. But they went on this big-ass 11-game win streak. And then after that, they just kept getting wins in bunches. And got in the playoffs year after coming this close last year. And they finished third in the Central behind Nashville and Winnipeg. But they went out there like the 2012 LA Kings, playing road warriors, winning road game after road game after road game. They took down a Winnipeg in that 6-game series. They beat Dallas in a spectacular 7-game series. They rose above San Jose, getting rid of a hand pass, and took them down in the Western Conference Final to reach the Stanley Final for the first time since 1970. And not only do they finally win a Stanley Cup Final game, they win 3 more after that. So St. Louis, congratulations to them. You know, a lot of fans went for St. Louis because, number one, the opponents were the Boston Bruins. They were and A, people hate the Bruins, and B, people hate Boston sports. Period. uh, but um, but yeah, because I myself actually don't have a problem with the Bruins. Uh, I think number one, they're the best team in Boston. And number two, they're not entitled like the Red Sox and Patriots. I don't think that at all. But I went for St. Louis because they had never won again. You always want that sentimental team to win. Okay, remember 2016, 3 years ago, was full of sentimental championships. Remember the Broncos won the Super Bowl. That was Peyton's final game. The Cleveland Cavaliers. 3 years ago today, today's still the 19th. 3 years ago today, the Cleveland Cavaliers won the first championship with LeBron, and of course, 2016 was topped when the Chicago Cubs won for the first time in over 100 years. I myself shed tears when that final out was made. I'm pretty sure a lot of Cubs fans and baseball fans did too. But with the Blues, it was kind of, well, with the Blues, it was like a mix between the Astros with a little bit of the Cubs. I mean, Because the Blues were definitely a cursed team. I mean, think about it. They came in 1967 as part of what is known as the original expansion six, a group of teams that also included the Flyers and the Kings, among a few others. Um, Now, the only team to end up folding was the Oakland Seals. They were gone, and but out of the five remaining, the Blues stood for years as the only team that had never won the cup. The Flyers won in the '70s. Even the Kings won a couple a few years ago, but the Blues they just couldn't win. And I remember I was a big hockey fan. I remember being a huge hockey fan back 20 some years ago. I remember when I was a teenager. The Western Conference back then. I called it the Big Four. The Big Four of the Western Conference. The four teams that made it every year. It was the Stars, the Red Wings, the Avalanche, and the Blues. Those four every year made up half of the Western Conference playoff field. Now, Detroit, they were like this big juggernaut. As much as we Avs fans couldn't stand them, Detroit was this big juggernaut. They were winning, winning, winning. They were winning cups. Um, Colorado won a pair of cups in '96 and '01. We'll get more on that later. Dallas won in '99 and went back in 2000. But the Blues just couldn't get there. They couldn't get there. They had to sit back and watch those other three win. And when the Blues did make the playoffs, a lot of times they ran into those three. They would run into Detroit and get beat. They would run into Dallas and get beat. In 2001, the Blues actually reached round three, but ran into the 52-win Avalanche team that was on a mission. And Blues got taken out in 5 games. So the Blues were always that odd team out, that team that just couldn't get past certain levels of the playoffs. And for years, they were that team. And in recent years, they were that team that just struggled to get in. But now, look, they are among the elite now. They are immortals. They won the whole fucking thing to draw that line for Major League. They finally did it. And to be honest, it's a little more heartwarming and a little more emotional than last year. Because the Capitals went through the agony of always getting beat by Pittsburgh. And of course, Ovechkin is arguably one of the best players in the NHL, and he couldn't get past round two. That was kind of heartbreaking. But the Blues went through this for years. They had good teams for years, but there were always better teams in the way. But this year, they were the better team. They were that team. They were the ones in everybody. They were the ones in everybody else's way, and they bulldozed. They bulldozed through the competition. So all that heartbreak they had in years past, all those demons they had, were exercised on the evening of Wednesday, June 12th, 2019, in Boston, of all cities. And Ryan O'Reilly. This is another side reason why I was kind of going for the Blues. Ryan O'Reilly played several years, began his career with the Colorado Avalanche, played several years with the Avalanche, one of our best core players, along with Matt Duchene and P.A. Pearito and Paul Stastny, and later Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon played with him a little bit. But, yeah, O'Reilly played with the Avalanche for many years, and he ended up going to a whole bunch of different other teams. He was with the Sabres before ended up in St. Louis. And he scored his ass off in that final. The final 4 games saw him score a goal. He was up there with Wayne Gretzky in that category. And he ended up getting the Conn Smythe. I'm kind of fine with that. I kind of thought it would go to Binnington because, they go give that award to goalies. And Binnington was kind of the nucleus of that team. If they didn't have Binnington, they would have come close to sniffing the cup, let alone winning the thing. But I'm fine with O'Reilly. It's that sentimental Avs fan in me. So I'm glad he won. And here's the thing: had Boston won, it would have been another ex-Blues player winning somewhere else because David Backes played for the Blues for a number of years. But and of course, I have to address the people who are kind of laughing at the Bruins' misfortune. I'm not one of them because it's not like this is their last chance. The Bruins will be back. They are that team that gets to the playoffs pretty much every year. I think they're like a close third, right behind Pittsburgh and Washington in the Eastern Conference. Yes, I say them, not Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay chokes when it gets close. But yeah, so major congratulations to the Blues, and to jump to another sport, major congratulations to the Toronto Raptors. Can you believe it? Canada won the NBA championship. They can't win the cup, the Stanley Cup lately, but they won an NBA championship. Isn't that something? But anyway, so a great and chaotic hockey season came to an end last Wednesday. No more pucks flying until October, but I will be back on YouTube soon. CFL season is underway, and I'll have my quarterly reports. Um, and I will get back, give a report on the first half of the MLB season. It's pretty crazy. So, one more time, congrats to the Blues, congrats to the Raptors, and have a good evening, all hockey.